Okay, this is my mom and dad on
Hello?
FaceTime. My fiance Kathy, she's smiling.
Okay.
Okay. So my name is Robert Brown, and my speech tonight is on the opioid epidemic in America. And I'm going to cover some basic topics. We're going to discuss what are opioids, why do we have an epidemic, who's responsible, who are the key players, what is the impact, and what is the solution. And then I'll give a brief conclusion to that. So opioids are drugs that are used to relieve pain, and they're prescribed by doctors under names like OxyContin, Percocet, Demerol. Heroin is an illegal drug. It is also an opioid. It's bought and sold on the streets illegally, and it can be obtained fairly easily, and it's cheap. These drugs are highly addictive, and they are leading contributors to overdose deaths in America. Drugs are now killing more Americans than car accidents are. So why do we have an epidemic? Well, we have an epidemic because many people who have been prescribed these opioid painkillers have become addicted to them. They become addicted, and then when they become unavailable, either through lack of money or their prescriptions run out, then they start to turn to illegal means to get those drugs, or they turn to heroin. Like I said, they're cheap on the streets and they're easy to get. Who's responsible? Well, the problem's real simple. It's driven by money. Pharmaceutical companies are out to look after their bottom line, and doctors are overprescribing these painkillers in epic numbers. If you look at this slide here, I'm going to go back just a step. This is another example of some of the opioids that are out there. They're physical and psychologically dependent. Hydrocodone, hydromorphine, codeine, oxycodone, methadone, fentanyl, and tramadol are some of the leading opioids that are out there that are contributing to this epidemic. In 2016, doctors wrote more than 289 million prescriptions for opioids. That's enough for every living adult in America to have 1.5 bottles each. This information comes from a lawsuit that's filed in Upshur County, Texas, to recoup the costs of the epidemic. The lawsuit was filed against numerous manufacturers, including Abbott Laboratories, Johnson & Johnson, Purdue Pharma, and Pfizer Incorporated. What's the impact? Well, right here it says opioid painkillers are, people are 40 times likely to become more addicted to heroin from opioid prescription painkillers, as opposed to 2 times likely if they were addicted to alcohol, 3 times likely if they were addicted to marijuana, or 15 times as likely to become if they were addicted to cocaine. So that's a significant amount of people that are likely to become addicted to these opioids. Overdoses from opioids are now killing 27,000 Americans yearly. That's quoted from Chris Amico, and he writes from the PBS Foundation on the website PBS. Death rate from overdoses and heroin from painkillers like Vicodin, Percocet, and OxyContin has quadrupled since 1999. The problems we face as a nation, and if this epidemic is not addressed and solutions not in place, will have a serious impact on our economy, puts our children in danger, and it degrades our country in general. So what's the solution? Well, the opioid epidemic has been called the worst drug crisis in American history. Death rates now rival those of the AIDS epidemic in the 90s. The epidemic does not discriminate, does not stop because of social class. In fact, people that have health insurance have a much higher risk of becoming addicted to opioid drugs. Regulating the marketing of these addictive drugs by the manufacturers, and revising healthcare so that addiction is addressed properly are some of the ways that we can avoid this issue. So in conclusion, recovery from addictive drugs such as opioids takes a lot of resources. It takes extensive support network from a loving family, AA or NA, and in most cases money and lots of time. Some people just simply don't have these resources available to them. Oftentimes life skills such as managing a checking account or preparing a resume to find a job are necessary so people in recovery can move forward with their lives and they're not just stuck in a no-end situation. The effort will also require parents, teachers, loved ones, ministers, business leaders, and anyone within the public eye to contribute to solving the major problem in our country. We are headed down a dangerous path, folks. In our communities, our family structure, our health care, and our values in general are all at stake. Let's do our part as Americans to keep our country strong by putting a stop to the opioid epidemic and drug addiction across the board. Thank you.